Hey everyone, Draco Prime 220 here, and the topic, villains. We've had so many villains mainly with villains I'm talking about are MLP villains. We've had some that were really good, some that were meh, and some that had a lot of potential but did not get to show it. And one of those villains today is Midnight Sparkle, the evil version of Science Twilight from Equestria Girls. The thing is, I really think Midnight Sparkle could have had a lot of potential, because out of everything, we only saw her twice. We saw her in the third act of Equestria Girls, the Friendship Games, and then she played as a lingering presence of Human Twilight in Equestria Girls and the Legend of Everfree. But my question is, what would have happened if we got the pony version of Midnight Sparkle? What if something happened to make Twilight, whether, it probably would be a temporary transformation, but make her like the villain. Make her become Midnight Sparkle, the pony form of the character. And I kind of threw this idea around a while back. Like, what if they could have done an episode where Tyrek escapes? And this is just an idea I'm throwing out, so this is nothing legit. This is just an idea I had a while back that I kind of thought of. And the other character we never saw actually was Scorpan. We only saw him in like little flashback images, or he was mentioned. That was actually kind of a bit of one of the bummers about Friendship is Magic, is that Scorpion, I think, could have had a lot of potential too, and he wasn't even shown. He was shown to be like Tyrek, wanting to steal magic, but then he grew to respect the customs and the ways of the ponies, and he was like the one to say, hey, bro, we don't have to do this, we don't have to take, we can learn. But Tyrek was like, no, we're doing it the way we've done it all these years. So Scorpion tells the sisters, Celestia and Luna, my brother's going to start some trouble. He's going to start taking magic from other ponies. And they stop him and they put him in Tartarus. But my thought of is, like, how could we have gotten Midnight Sparkle in the land of ponies? Not in Equestria Girls. A couple things I thought of is, like, first off, maybe a little bit of Midnight Sparkle's magic goes through the portal and enters Equestria, or the Alicorn Amulet amplifies maybe Twilight's anger, her sadness, maybe her desperation to protect her friends, and I'll get to that in the third option. Twilight Sparkle, is so desperate to protect her friends that she kind of becomes the villain, and kind of loses it a bit in her state that she's in, between the dark magic that changed her and the Alicorn Amulet. It would mess her up. It would be almost like with Dr. Otto Octavius, when the chip is all burnt out and the arms actually kind of have control of him, and it's not the other way around. My third option would be, I thought of an episode, like a what if episode. What if, I don't know, maybe before the events, after season 4, maybe after the events of season 5, maybe Tyrek escapes and he wants to find an artifact that will allow him to contain the magic that he does absorb, and it won't allow powerful magic wielders to take the magic away from him. And also, here's where I had this idea of how would Twilight become Midnight Sparkle. It's a mixture of this third option and the second one, the Alicorn Amulet. I would have where Tyrek is trying to go somewhere. He gets out, and of course, along the way, he grows and gets more power to get himself back to what he was. And he knows the artifact. Let's say he's in a coastal town, and maybe it's a friend of Rarity. And the main six, Spike included, go there to try defend the town, get every pony out of there, and we have like a smaller rematch between Twilight and Tyrek. The only thing is, she doesn't have all the powers of all the Alicorns in her, only her own. So it would be a little bit more of a more interesting fight where, I can't say they weren't even in their first fight. Like, they both had a lot of power and they were trading blow for blow. So I would think here Twilight, would put up a good fight, but not as much of a good fight as she did in Season 4, since she had a massive power boost. I would maybe think that Twilight would, ask Tyrek, why are you like this? You don't have to be this way. And I could see maybe, Tyrek snapping. He's just... And because we kind of get from, the comics, he's trying to get the approval of his father, prove that he's stronger and more powerful. King Vorak, his father, and he's I think something tells me the way how resentful he is to Scorpan, not only ratting him out and saying, hey, you're going to be, your highnesses, he's going to be starting trouble. I think I think Tyrek kind of has some resentment to his father and his brother. We don't know. I really never read the comic about Tyrek, but I don't know. You could definitely say from the show that Tyrek has some very massive resentment to Scorpan. And also Scorpan would play in this hypothetical episode. It would be like a two-parter, but with me, I think a three-parter would work. Because also, let's think about back in the early 2000s with some shows, they actually would, if they had, a three-parter, they actually would, compile it into a DVD, almost like a TV for made movie. Take 3 episodes, make it like a compilation, and put it on a DVD. I kind of thought those were kind of cool, especially if they were shows I liked. But, yeah, I would actually have where Tyrek kind of snaps, and he shoots a powerful blast of magic where... it causes maybe part of the house where this artifact is to fall into the ocean. And Spike, of course, is kind of trapped. He gets stuck, and, of course, the part that he's in falls into the ocean. Now, this is where we see signs that... Because, let's think about it. Let's be honest here. Twilight, Sparkle, and Spike, I don't really view them as mom and son. I see them as, brother and sister. I don't see... I know there's been a lot of opinions and thoughts, are they mother and son? Brother and sister? I see them more as a brother and sister kind of thing, because I think it was kind of confirmed in, oh my god, what's the episode? I know it's in Season 9. It's when, oh boy, Sibling Supreme or something. It's... where Luna kind of helps Spike out, and we got Applejack pretending to be a character called Applecore. We got I can't remember the name of the episode, but I remember there's a very infamous image where Luna is looks like a evil villain with petting a flamingo or something, and she has lighting makes her look a little bit more menacing. It's that episode. If anyone remembers the episode, please write it down in the description, in the comment section. Thank you. But this is where things would turn. Spike, of course, every pony would think Spike is dead. We, the fans, know Spike is not. But this would be a very emotional moment for mostly Twilight and her friends, but mostly Twilight. I could see Tyrek saying, I harbor no ill will to the little dragon, but you ponies need to realize that we all lose something. or something like that. I think Tyr could like show that he doesn't really have anything against Spike or something, but he knows how it was to lose a brother. Maybe he didn't really like him. Maybe he actually did care. We don't really know their relationship. All we know is that he has resentment for feeling betrayed. So this is where Scorpan would come in. Spike is floating on the debris of the house where the artifact was, and something flies over and picks him up. And lo and behold, it is Scorpan. And here's something who I definitely know who I would have voice Scorpan. Keith David. And if you don't know who that is, he is currently in Hazbin Hotel, and he was the voice of Goliath in Gargoyles. And he was also the voice of Black Panther in the 1990s Fantastic Four animated series. But he's been in a lot of stuff. And, his voice, he has the right voice where it's soft, but it's very deep and strong. And I have always liked his voice. Like, I think he's like that proper balance, like I said, of very soft, but deep and strong. And I think he'd be perfect to play Scorpion. It's not like he's a stranger to playing a gargoyle. And this is where he would rescue Spike. That maybe King Vorak, his father, has sent him to retrieve Tyrek. And but back in Equestria, Twilight is going through something pretty dark. And here's like a fourth option of how maybe Midnight Sparkle can appear. Maybe ponies are very emotional. I'm sorry. I am surprised people have not really brought this up, but ponies are highly sensitive. Sometimes that is good, sometimes that is bad. These ponies wear their hearts on their hooves. I'm sorry. I know it sounds weird, but it's like if, you say someone wears their heart on their sleeve. But when I've watched My Little Pony, I have seen how emotional these ponies can get. It doesn't take a lot, it could take something serious, but it doesn't really take a lot, or even something major to get them to cry. But with an Alicorn, as we saw, between the Nightmare, or the Tantabus, and Luna's jealousy, it made a nasty concoction. And lo and behold, she became Nightmare Moon. What would happen if Twilight thought the one that she basically hatched, who's been part of her life even way before she met the others, she thought was gone? And she was angry. She actually wants payback. She wants to go after Tyrek. But the ponies are like, it's not going to bring him back. You can't do this. But let's think about it this way. When Alicorns, Celestia and Luna have not really done a lot of things action-packed wise, and when they have tried, they have been overpowered quick. I get it, Twilight's the main character, and her friends, I get it, but the dream sequence that started like Glimmerhead with Daybreaker, Nightmare Moon, it really shows, and the fight with Tyrek and Twilight, what the powers of the Alicorn can be capable of. That made me say, yeah, I know Celestia and Luna have been beaten quite a few times, but don't tick them off. You do not want a ticked off Alicorn breathing down your neck. That's not good. If they're capable of doing what they are, in their evil, superpowered forms, or if they have, all the powers of an Alicorn in one, and we all saw what Twilight was capable of in that fight with Tyrek. Yeah, Alicorns are quite capable of doing damage, especially when they are emotionally volatile, and when they are motivated. And sometimes that plays into their corruption forms. Yeah, we all know that in, the Nightmares and the Tantabus did, I think they said the Tantabus helped make Nightmare Moon, I think. Or was that just a dream thing? I'm sorry. I can't really remember, but we know that the jealousy played a massive part in her change. And I think this would be a fourth option for how Midnight Sparkle could come to be in the land of Equestria. And I really think that all the anger, the sadness, the grief would mess with her magic and get it to the point where she manifests, she transforms into Midnight Sparkle. And at first she's not like all evil. She's like, just, I'm going after Tyrek. I'm going to do what has to be done. And then Celestia, like, her friends are like trying to tell her, no, you can't do this. But she like ignores them and just goes to find Tyrek. Excuse me. I'm sorry if I'm burping. I just had supper a little bit, like half an hour ago. I've been kind of busy today, so if I have my apologies. I really think like the rest of the remaining character, like the main five at that point, would go to Celestia and Luna and say Twilight has kind of changed and she's going after Tyrek. And I could see where Celestia is like, I'll talk to her. I will try and talk her down and hope for the best. But here's where I would make things interesting. We got Spike, who's alive, coming back with Scorpan. Scorpan's been sent by his father to retrieve Tyrek. It just leads to a bunch of chaos, where Tyrek is rampaging, he's stealing magic, and I really think this would be the point where he sees someone coming his way, and he thinks it's Celestia, because it's bigger, it's not Twilight. But then when it gets closer, he notices it's Twilight, but different. And I could see a little exchange between the two, and Midnight Sparkle just lets loose. And being a corrupted version of Twilight, she is 10 times more powerful than what she usually is. And she's quite capable of fighting Tyrek. Tyrek is able to take all the hits. I could see, this would be kind of cool because this is a villain versus a pseudo-villain. A villain who is not really a full-on villain yet, because she still has, like, in the back of her mind, I'm doing this for, in her head, a good reason. And I could see where Midnight Sparkle has kind of Tyrek at her mercy. And I would actually like it for once for Tyrek to feel some fear. Show that he's not all... Because I think he is a very insecure guy. And kind of Discord kind of called that out on him in the finale of Season 9. Kind of called him out on it. So I do think he is kind of, like, insecure. And I would have, like, Midnight Sparkle really prey on those insecurities. And maybe she says, oh, the mighty Tyrek. Mighty Lord Tyrek. I didn't know you felt fear. And I could see where Tyrek is really, like... And maybe even Tyrek tries to call her bluff and says, you won't have the power, you don't have the will to destroy me. You pony princesses don't act like that. And I could see where Midnight Sparkle gets like kind of into Tyrek's face and says, I'm not Twilight. And that moment, I think Tyrek would be like, kind of scared. Like, it would be like similar to where, like, in the 1990s animated Spider-Man series, when Spider-Man has the symbiote, he's on the verge of killing Rhino. And Rhino's like always saying, I can't tell you, you wouldn't do that, you can't do that. You wouldn't do that to me. And then he gets to the point where he picks up this giant iron door and gets ready to kill him. And I really think that's kind of an interesting concept where you know a character that will not cross that line, that won't intentionally take a life, whether it's intentional, an intentional way, like out of revenge, out of anger, out of hate. But then you see the character that you know who you're talking to, but they're different, and you're seeing this different side of them, like, you still think, yeah, they won't cross that line, they won't do that. But then they get to that point where they're going to, and you're like, and that's when you're like, oh my god, this is off. Like, even Shocker in the same animated series, there's even a point where Symbiote Spirit has him on the ledge. I think they're fighting in a church or something, like in a cathedral or church. And Shocker's terrified. Like, he has him leaning over a ledge, and he's like, I knew you wouldn't do it. But then, he looks terrified. He's like, you wouldn't do that. I kind of like that idea where you're thinking you know this character, but in a way you do, and in a way you don't. And how I do think things would wrap up is that Celestia would try to talk Twilight down, but Midnight Sparkle will be so driven by revenge and hate to where I could see a brief fight happening between Celestia and Midnight Sparkle. Midnight Sparkle, who wants revenge, but is giving more and more into her dark, evil nature, and Celestia, like, gets a little banged up, and maybe her friends are trying to talk her down, and Midnight Sparkle gets to that point where all she wants is revenge. That's all she wants, and she's embracing her powers. And now here's where I would make it a little gutsy. Like, Celestia's down, Tyrek is down, the remaining 5, are like blocking Midnight Sparkle, their friend, from a heavily beaten Tyrek and Celestia, and are trying to talk her down. And I could see, like, a moment where Twilight does come through, like, her eyes change to her normal eyes. She's crying, and then she, like, gives in saying, why do you persist in getting in my way? And maybe she gets to the point where she's getting ready to charge her horn, and maybe they're like, you wouldn't do that. We're your friends. And maybe there's a point where both the side of Twilight and Midnight are like, then if you were my friends, get out of my way. And maybe there's like an up-close look on her eyes. She's crying, she's emotional, but she's angry. But then Scorpion shows up, and like we'd be following Scorpion as he returns to Equestria, finding out of what has been going on, and have a bit of a like a bittersweet reunion between the brothers. And when she sees that Spike is alive, I could see where Midnight Sparkle like snaps out of it, and she reverts to Twilight, begging for forgiveness, but we would leave with a little stinger at the end. The stinger would be that even though Midnight Sparkle kind of got vanquished by seeing that Spike is alive, and between of course, the power of friendship. I know that's cheesy, but it's called Friendship is Magic, as we know. I really think how it would end is that Twilight's calming down, and she's getting her hair done, and she's getting ready to go out with her friends and be with Spike. But then her reflection, like as she walks out the door of her room in her castle at this point, we see the eyes of Midnight Sparkle laugh and just say, "This is only the beginning." And I think that would be interesting to have, where we could have gotten more of, that's like my hypothetical idea of like how Midnight Sparkle could be introduced. We could have gone more into like how Midnight Sparkle works as a character, because I believe she had a lot of potential and she was barely touched upon. But that's my idea of how, if she was in Equestria, how she would be as a character. And I would picture a other two-parter where maybe Twilight is dealing with her inner demons, and it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because I know there was a fan animation made years ago where Luna is kind of talking to herself, talking to herself, but it's Nightmare Moon, kind of saying, "I'm never gone, I'm still here, I will be back." And we could have maybe had like a similar scene where Twilight's, her magic, her temperament's getting more and more out of hand, to where Midnight Sparkle is actually a part of her now. Almost like yin and yang, light and dark, good and evil. And she's got to overcome it, and maybe Luna could have played a part to where she's like, "Twilight, I know what it's like to have a monster inside you just wanting to come out." But those are my ideas. I personally think Midnight Sparkle had a lot of potential, both in Equestria. She could have been a almost continuous looming presence. She could have actually come back, or we could have gotten a pony version of her. But Yeah, I just think she had a lot of potential. Like, even this, like, another villain that had a lot of potential was the Storm King. The Storm King, I really think, was heavily underused. And I will agree with a lot of people, because when I saw the movie, Tempest was stealing the show as the villain. And she was, like, very tragic, but that tragic side of her did not diminish her as a threat. And the Storm King, the only time we ever see him is like a potion scene, like early in the film. Then we see him physically in his entirety near the end. And I have to say, he got one of the many grisliest deaths in My Little Pony. But I really think he should have played a more bigger part. Or you could have just completely removed him and had Tempest as the villain. Because Storm King, I really think, had a lot of potential. He was like a mixture of, dare I say, Jafar and Hades. He could be calm and elegant in a way, but then he can just explode into bombastic temperament like Hades. And I really think he had a lot of potential too. But that is about Midnight Sparkle. But really quick about the Storm King, I do know, as I have said before in my previous videos, there is an upcoming My Little Pony audio drama called Strings of Fate, and the first episode is called Return of the Enemy, I believe. I haven't kept up to date on it for a while, and I'm actually wondering if that's the Storm King making a comeback in that audio drama. Only time will tell when we finally get the first episode, and I know the YouTuber is Spotted Tails, I believe her name is. So yeah, if you want to go check her out, go take a look. For tonight, I think that's about it for everything, tonight. I just wanted to give my opinions on how Midnight Sparkle could have been introduced, how she did have a lot of potential as a character and as a villain, and give me your thoughts in the comment section. And if you enjoy this video, I would love you all to subscribe for more, and I hope you do. I'm at 67 subscribers. My goal is to reach 100 at least by the time this year is over. And let's be honest, this year is going fast. So please help me make my goal a reality. I will keep making videos as much as I can. And I hope you all enjoy, and wherever you are, you have a good day or a good night, and stay safe. So until next time, I am Draco Prime 220, signing off.